So these are all the parts that's gonna be in the computer, and this is the case I'm gonna be using. Unfortunately, this case has one fan, but this right here is the motherboard. It's an Asus M5 A7 8L M+. I only got it for like budget. Everything here is like budget reasons, but at the same time, it's all good for performance. I actually have this computer already built. I should be uploading a video soon on how it runs a performance. I already did performance tests and all that. It runs beautiful, runs better than my computer, my personal computer. This right here is an MSI Radeon RX 570 8 gig graphic card. It's the OC edition. If you don't know what OC means, it means like overclock and all that. It actually runs. I use this on my personal computer. It runs perfect. It does everything it's supposed to. I'm gonna build this with the 120 gig SSD. I'm gonna install Windows 10 on there, so you need an operating system, of course. And then all the way down here, this right here is your 1 terabyte hard drive where you can install all your other softwares or your games, depending how you want to use the computer. Everything here is new parts. Some of them still have the seal. I actually recorded this before when I opened this and this. I opened these two because I was going to build the computer, but the processor actually came messed up. The pins were bent, so I had to get out of the way to buy a new one, which leads me to here. We're going to use the AMD FX 830 processor. It's an 8-core processor running baseline speeds is 4 gigahertz. You can overclock it to 5 gigahertz, but I'm going to be using the standard CPU cooler, so I highly would not recommend that. Otherwise, there is a possibility you can burn out the CPU, and these CPUs are not cheap. We're going to use 16 gigs of RAM. This is DDR3 running at 1866 megahertz. So it's not slow, but it's not the fastest. Also, I got this for budget reasons, and also because the motherboard can only support DDR3. So this is the best choice I think I went with. We're going to start with the motherboard. Again, this is the motherboard. I already opened this from the last time the first attempt I was trying to build this. So here they say the cables, it actually comes with 2. So how coincidental is that? I got 2 hard drives, so it's a good thing it came with 2. I'm gonna be using both of those. Here is the motherboard. Let me put that down. And right here you have the back of the case, the shears. These are actually, I'm not gonna lie, they're kind of difficult to play around with and put on. On the first time I built this, I actually didn't put it on because if you look back here, all these little connectors actually were bending the wrong way and all that. So I just got frustrated. This, I mean, in my opinion, you really don't need this, but at the same time you do. It's not gonna affect any of the performance or anything, obviously. So it's more for like cosmetic stuff. So we're gonna start with the motherboard. Let me take this out. Also, if you're trying to attempt this at home, I am not responsible for any damages you do. This is just me doing a tutorial video. I will leave if you want to do this on your own, I will leave links in the description below from Amazon, because I got all these parts from Amazon. So I will be leaving links from Amazon, and you can buy it if you like and build it on your own. Use this video as a tutorial guide. So starting with this first, here's the motherboard. Right here, this socket right here is the CPU socket. It's an AM3 Plus socket. So you can only use AM3 Plus processors, which is this processor right here. This is an AM3 Plus socket. If you try to use like AM4, it will not fit, and you could potentially mess up the CPU on this. And then we have the RAM slots here, and then the GPU. So the first thing we're gonna install on this one, we're gonna install the CPU. That's first things first. So it's new, it's still sealed. I'm about to use my box cutter and open this. This is the new CPU. If the gold pins come bent on this one, I don't know, maybe it's the seller from Amazon who's not boxing it correctly. So it's open now. There. New parts come with 30-day warranty and all that. So if you do happen to buy a PC, before I even open this, I'm trying to see if all of them are straight. So for the most part, it looks good. It also comes with a sticker. So most of the time, sticker like this, people want to put on the case. I mean, maybe I should, maybe I shouldn't. I don't really care because it's just to give people a hint of what's inside. It just says AMD FX unlocked. That's it. I mean, that's the name of the processor in a way. And this is the CPU cooler, the processor cooler. It already has thermal paste in the back applied, so I'm just not. I actually bought thermal pasting as well, so I'm not gonna waste any of that because soon I might start doing different builds. So if you look at it right here, this is weird, really weird. This is the basic one. I think it's the basic one. It does keep the CPU cool because obviously if it wasn't gonna keep it cool, the computer will automatically shut off. It has like the overheat protection and all that. That's a good thing. Now I actually got the CPU in hand. Yep, all of them look straight. Okay, that's perfect. So on the motherboard, let me slowly put this aside. I don't want to bend any of them. So on the motherboard, if you buy your very own motherboard, there's like a little pin right here. You want to pick this up and it like unlocks the socket so you can gently slide the pins in the sockets. And please be careful. You don't want to bend them. Right, I don't know if you can see here. But right on the motherboard, you see a white little arrow. That's where you're gonna see also on the processor, and that's where you want to put the pins at. You want to start putting it on the processor. It has it as well. You see back here in the back, it has it. It's like a little gold arrow pointing down or to the side, the left side. It also has it in the front. Wow, I gotta be careful. Also has it in the front down here. I don't know if they can kind of see that. But if you're building this on your own and you buy the same exact parts, you will be able to see it. So what you want to do is you want to align that with the motherboard and slowly, please don't force it. Don't do a little nug because that's how you bend the connectors. And even if you bend one single connector, this is no longer good. And these CPUs are not cheap. They're not cheap. They're like, depending where you get them, 120 and lower. Once it slides in, you do want to tug it a little, not too hard, because again, you'll bend the gold pin. So I tugged it a little. It seems like it should move very little bit, like it should have some wiggling room until you pull down the pin or the little white stick or metal stick, whatever you want to call it. Once you pull that down and you lock it just like I did, it should not be able to move at all. All I want you to do is with the tip of your finger, move the top a little bit or just grab it from the sides and do it a little bit. Don't do it too hard because trust me, nobody wants to waste money for no reason. All right, so once you install the CPU cooler, you're gonna see there's like a wire right here. What you want to do is on the top of this specific motherboard, it depends on the motherboard, it's all over the place. It's gonna be up here, so you just wanna like gently slide it in. Of course, you don't wanna bend any of these connectors because then it's gonna be terrible. You line up the connectors and you just slide it right in. And if you see here, it's already connected. So whenever I plug in the motherboard and I turn it on, you should automatically see the fan starting. Again, you want to be careful. You want to touch like your case once in a while for static stuff if you don't have a mat like I do. So CPU has been installed with the CPU cooler. The next step I would say would be the RAM, however you like to do it. It could either be the graphic card you had to put in the case in the motherboard, so that would probably be next. Let me move this out the way. So here I'm gonna install the RAM here, so let me just take this out. Again, this is 16 gigs. This is two 8 gigs running at 1866 megahertz speed. You want to line it up because you don't want to put it upside down and risk messing this up, so you want to carefully do it. First of all, before you even install the RAM, let me pick up the motherboard gently again. Before you even want to install the RAM, there's clips. If you see in the top, you're going to want to pull it up. See, I can push it down. You want to pull it up before you even install it, because when it's down, it's locked. So it holds the RAM in place. You just want to like pick it up, push it up so you can unlock it. And other than that, you should be good to go. So I'm gonna do the two white ones and not the black ones. Actually, first of all, grab the motherboard manual. which in my case will be this little book. And when you want to look at it, it actually tells you which slot the RAM will go to first. This will be the 2 blue slots on the motherboard. So those are the first 2 spots where you want to install the RAM on. Again, you want to be careful because you do not want to mess this little connector up. Once you mess it up, you might as well just go ahead and buy yourself a new RAM stick. Do it gently, and then with this, once you install, so I installed the first one. Once you install it, the clips on the top should automatically, like once you push it in correctly, the clips are here again on the top should automatically lock itself in. So if I hold it upside down, the RAM stick should not slip out. If it does, you're not doing it properly. So the second RAM stick, I'm gonna hold it out just this way, is already installed, as you guys can see there. So now we have the CPU, which is the processor, and the processor, the cooling, the CPU cooling, both installed, and we got the RAM installed. So the only thing we gotta do now is just put in the graphic card, which I'm gonna do when I put in the case. So let me move this whole thing, throw that on the side right there. Move the whole motherboard gently to the side. You have 2 screws right here, which is on the side. You can just use a standard star screwdriver. You want to unscrew it. Sometimes it's loose like it is now, so you can just do it with your hands. You don't even need it. But when you're gonna tighten it, you sort of want to do that so it doesn't slip out. Let me put this aside here. Now that I took that off, this you just slide to the side right here. You just want to do it carefully as well. Once you do that, so as you guys can see here, again, everything is brand new. So you got the bag right here with all the, you have extra, what is this? I guess this is a mic. And you have screws here for everything else. And you also have the power supply cable where you can plug into the wall. Let me take this out gently. Again, you want to be careful with everything. All these wires are for the case. So all of this is for the case. You plug all these wires essentially into the motherboard. So whenever you press a button or you plug in your phone in the case, the motherboard automatically detects it. I'd recommend you to unscrew the opposite side as well. This is what you would call cable management. And this, so that way the front side of the case has a tempered glass, and you do not want it to look ugly. If you do put RGB, this computer will not have RGB. But if you do, you don't want to see wires scattered all over the place. So if I was you, let me take this this thing off. Slowly and carefully shove all the wires in the back. I'll lay this flat. Again, be careful with the wires. You don't want to mess up any of the pins. So now if you look here, you see these little spots right here. These are actually pins for the motherboard. So this can put an ATX, a micro ATX, and a mid ATX. In our case, we're using a micro ATX motherboard. So you're gonna kind of want to be careful. You should take the time to install this in the back. So if I put it this way, it's going to be, I believe, this way. So you want to align it and put it right here in the back. In the back, it should be able to clip in. Sometimes it's a hassle. Was it this easy? Don't tell me it was this easy. All right, so you want to be careful with this. All right, so coming back to the video, if you look at the motherboard right here, you have circles here on each side. You want to align it with the case. So why is this not going in? Because these little connectors right here are like is actually what's preventing me from sliding it in. And I do not want to mess up this motherboard. These parts are not cheap, trust me. When you add everything up together, even though if you try to go for a budget build, it is not cheap. That's essentially what this is. It's not budget build to the point where you can't really game on it. All right, so that's aligned right there. This one is aligned right there. Where else? So these don't have one. Actually, perfect example. So this right here, let me move this out of the way. So this little screw down here on the case, which should be here, is not there. Let me actually push this cable out on the side. So if I hold it here, yeah, it should be here. If it's not there, you wanna, I mean, I could continue to build without it, but since it's not there, this is what came with the case. Sometimes they have it. I don't need, this is, yeah, this is a microphone right here. Speaker, says a speaker. I mean, technically you can install this if you like. I mean, I personally wouldn't. Let's see, just to double check. I don't wanna, yeah, so you see that little screw right there, that silver screw? That's exactly what I'm gonna need, and I just screw it in right here. So it adds more support to the motherboard, so it's less likely to shake. Let me actually throw all this on top of this. And anyway, you're gonna need some of these screws anyway. Cause like screws like this one right here, is it this one? This one, you're gonna use multiple of these screws just to tighten it in, make sure it's not loose. Again, here I go. This one, I'm gonna need for right here. Is it right here? Let me just double check. So if I was to put the motherboard in slowly, trust me, it is not as easy as some of these YouTubers make it look. It is fairly complicated. So now that I know it's actually right there, I'm gonna wanna screw this in all the way. You don't have to screw it in that tight because on this side is where the other screw will insert, and when you're turning it with the screwdriver, it will tighten the whole thing up together. So now let's put it in the proper way. I put it tight enough. So now I'm gonna have to start screwing in the motherboard piece by piece, which I would recommend you get a magnetic screwdriver like this is. You see this whole thing right here is just magnetic. I could swap it, I could put flathead or anything like that. I highly recommend that, because if you don't, this process right here is just gonna be a lot harder. So I'm just gonna, you don't wanna tighten it completely, just wanna tighten it just enough. So now that the motherboard is screwed in, I can literally grab it by the sides, try to move it around, and as you see, I'm moving the case and the motherboard is perfectly still. That's exactly what you want. So when you look through the tempered glass, you're gonna see the CPU. If you like the little sticker it comes with, you can even put it here so you know it's an AMD. Here is the power supply. Please do not plug in the power supply directly to the wall. If you're doing this, you will fry yourself, as well as you might even mess up the motherboard. So I'm gonna put this back right side up. As you guys can see, screws are tied in tightly. So I'm pushing it out and it doesn't come out, because it will totally suck if everything was to fall. You wanna push everything out right here. Actually, I'm gonna do it through here in the bottom. Push all these wires out. Push all of it out, so when you look through the front, you don't see that much of a mess when it comes to wiring and all that. The only wire you should really see is this, which is actually for the CPU. You plug into the motherboard. As you guys can see here, these are pins. These pins, you're gonna, some of them have no use depending on the case, on the power supply, and all that. Everything, it all depends. So for example, not this. This right here, this cable is for your USB 3.0 if you want like that super speed and all that. So this, I know it is right here. So I'm gonna push it down here. As you guys can see, there's a little bump on the top and there's a little bump on the bottom. So what you wanna do is you wanna push it in exactly like so. Again, please be careful. Those little pins, there you go. You hear the click, boom, that's it. It is done. If you like, you can pull it out. So like so, if it's like that. If you wanna keep it less messy with wires, again, you don't wanna push it in too much. You heard the click is good, ready to go. And you wanna be very careful, because these little pins, if one of them bend, you're gonna either have to get a new wire, which most likely you're gonna need to get a new motherboard, and these motherboards are not cheap. You're gonna need this pin right here, and push this cable right through here, and it should be this way, like so, right there. All right, so here the problem was I took this because it's like a detachable, attachable connector. I took it off because you can, if I plug this in right now, let's line this whole thing up before I push it in. Why is it not going in? There we go. I want to be careful with this. All right, so you see how it's plugged in? It covers the whole space. Let me make sure it's plugged in. Don't want to put too much force. This you can detach and attach, but then the problem is up here, you have another pin connector, which this power supply does not have. So I'm kind of curious if this whole PC is going to turn on or if not. Well, this one does say ETX power. So I guess, because this is ATX power, but this is